when Brian Kohberger got back to Pennsylvania from Idaho for Christmas break after the murders, when he left his parents' house, they tell us that he was always wearing gloves, according to the sources, and that is the reason why the FBI had to do a trash pull to get his DNA. Remember, they had to go in his parents' trash, pull out the Q-tip, and get the DNA that way, which connected back to his dad, because according to our sources, pretty much every time he left the house, he was wearing gloves.
If Kohberger was wearing gloves 24/7, and the police, the FBI had to take DNA from his trash. My question is, what about his white Hyundai Elantra? There should have been plenty of evidence, DNA evidence, red liquid, body fluid, whatever. There should have been evidence inside his white Hyundai Elantra. But they said that he washed it with bleach. His car seemed to be dirty the whole time, even when he was driving to Pennsylvania. And if Kohberger did this quadruples, why would he be still hanging around in Washington Pullman waiting to be arrested? Usually when criminals unalive someone, especially quadruples, you wouldn't be hanging around there. Look at how dirty his car is. He would have got rid of all kind of evidence. He would have washed his white Hyundai Elantra. He knows that they're searching for white Hyundai Elantra. Doesn't make sense. So the Moscow police and the FBI got 7,650 email tips, 4,313 cover? Sorry, I can't see the word. They made it too short. 250 interviews. So if they did a thorough investigation, did all the tips lead to Kohberger? Was this all pre-planned? I mean, did maybe the suspects call and give Kohberger's name, description? Because just say, in case they planted the knife sheath, obviously they wanted him to get caught for it. So it would have been more reasonable for them all to call the tip line and flood the tip line with Kohberger's information. Up to today, I wonder if the ladder was ever used to climb upstairs. In the beginning, I used to believe that it wasn't. But the more I look into these pictures, it is kind of strange, because the ladder used to be parked, or basically it used to be lying flat near the sliding door, at the side of the sliding door. It used to never be on this side of the house. I saw it even in the noise complaints. Why was it lying there that night? Were they painting? And the fact that it's standing right in front of Xana's bedroom. I wonder if whoever attacked Xana and Ethan could have come both from the sliding door, and maybe 2 or 3 of them climbed up the ladder. And the ones who entered from the sliding door could have opened the room window for them, allegedly. Just thinking out loud. There's something with that ladder because the FBI was standing and watching it for a while. I've seen the investigators, actually, not the FBI. The Idaho investigators were standing and taking pictures and looking at all 3 floors, and they were standing right in front of the ladder. What do you think? And it's kind of pinkish there. There is snow. It could be just pink dry paint. Well, it's questionable.
The girls the night they were murdered.
Why didn't Jack D come? And Shiralter? Hunter came, Emily came. That was nice of them.
Position of power, basically dictate the terms to him and say we're not going to accept this unless you prove who you are.
So fascinated by the comment he made upon arrest. Have you arrested anyone else? Thinking, is he throwing a red herring in? Is he really curious about other possible suspects? But I'm very curious about what you just mentioned, that coming out of hearings, there would be people who would call you and say, I don't like what's happening in that courtroom. I know what's on his phone. I know. What did you learn from those phone calls without divulging who it was who called?
Just weird porn fetishes, but 2 of the fetishes were in that room. Drunk, passed out girls and gagging girls. And those are 2 things that were part of that crime scene. For Thompson to say that there was no sexual assault, of course there wasn't. He didn't have enough time. Somebody came up there. But why are you defending somebody who just killed 4 people? You know, why are you not even making him stand in the courtroom and admit that he killed 4 people? I mean, it's upside down world sometimes when you go in those court systems and they're literally, oh, you've been so respectful. You can sit down when you plead guilty, you know, with a yes and no answer. So we're just glad to be done with it. We're glad to move on.
When you said drunk, passed out girls, gagging girls, was there something that happened at the crime scene involving gagging that you heard?
Yeah. That's what we've heard. That's why we want to get all these facts straight. So we don't want to have a statement that isn't accurate. But when you have a prosecution that just is okay with covering everything up and not telling you what's going on, it's hard to be accurate. And they've criticized us for not being accurate on certain things. And it's because we're not getting the facts. Parents shouldn't have to beg to know what happened to their kid the last 24 hours of their life. We figured out everything that we could. You know, we got the grub truck video before they did. We got the white car. We got the 112 surveillance even before they got it. We were the ones that tell them to go to these cameras and pull them off. I'm sure they already were going to do that anyway, but we got it before they did. So they were just concerned that, you know, they weren't in control and we knew too much stuff, and you know, it's unfortunate.
Did
All right.
someone did
We're
someone
running out of time.
did someone with the investigation describe that Kaylee or Maddie was gagged during this horrible crime?
I was told that by somebody in I can give that out. That was Babbitt. That was Babbitt who gave that information.
What did she say? And I just, for our viewers right now, Kathy
There was
Babbitt
some damage around her mouth, right here, like somebody had like pressed in and like tried to keep her quiet.
So Kathy Macbeth, the coroner, told Steve that the victims were gagged up. At least Kaylee had injuries on her mouth and it looked like she was tied. Her mouth was tied. I really believe that part. Looking at the picture Saeed was watching at the band field, Kaylee, may she rest in peace, his hands looked tied up. She did look like she was in a position that she was gagged. And I would believe that they gagged them and tied their mouths so that they couldn't scream and call out for help. And obviously, They're going to tie them up because how can one person get 4 people under control? But I don't believe it was one person who did this. Is that the reason Koberger keeps on asking? Did you catch the other victims? Did you catch the other suspects? He was wondering if any other person was arrested. And then we have 3 unidentified male DNAs besides Koberger that was found in the house. It makes sense that there were 3 to 4 people who did these crimes. I really feel sorry for Kaylee, for the 4 victims, and for you, Steve. I hope you sue the university. Honestly, I hope you sue all of them to find out each and everything that happened to the 4 victims. They're entitled to finding out the truth. Parents should be treated better. It's their children. They're entitled to getting all the details of exactly what happened, what was the motive, who was the target, how badly was their child injured, how did it start, how did it finish. Although it is difficult for them to hear, if the parents choose and family to be part of it and to find out the whole truth, then they should be given the truth, because this is part of their bereavement. This is part of their healing process for them to move on. You can never move on after losing a child. Losing your children, losing your loved ones is really hard to move on for anyone. But for them to move on, let them have their truth. Give them the truth. They're entitled to the truth. His daughter is being gagged up. He said his daughter was beaten badly, punched on the face. So whether it was Koberger or whichever suspects did that, they all need to be arrested for this. This is nonsense. You don't send, like Steve said in the beginning, I sent my child, I sent my daughter to university to get an education, not to come back in a box. That's heartbreaking. William Thompson promised them the world and back. He said that, don't worry, everything will be fine. You get the DP on the table. But Steve should have understood. It's not what they always tell you. It's not how they tell you the law's going to work. Things change. And I agree with Steve. Koberger should be put on trial. If he committed this horrific quadruples, he needs to be punished for that. But if there are other alternative suspects, then Steve, the truth needs to come forth. But the fact that Koberger is making a plea deal is really sus here. I can understand people are threatening him and his family. So that has a big role to play in it.
Into the leaks over the Dateline episode. The judge here was very, very upset about it. Well, News Nation has learned just because sentencing on Wednesday is happening and the gag order is over, we have learned that the investigation into the leak is ongoing and has not ended, and that the investigation will continue. So it'll be interesting to see where that leads. Joining me now is trial attorney and host of the podcasts Two Angry Men and Reasonable Doubt, Mark Garagos. Nice to see you, Mark. Thank you for coming on tonight. First of all, what do you make of President Trump's post today about the Koberger case? And could that actually push the judge into trying to get some kind of confession out of Koberger on Wednesday?
I doubt that it's going to push the judge to get into to do anything he wasn't going to do anyway. There's 2 things, however, that have kind of struck me about this plea deal. Number 1 is generally when you're trying to get somebody to take the death penalty off the table in a negotiation, which is fairly common in capital cases. A lot of times there are either attorney proffers or there are debriefs that the prosecutor requires. I don't know if that's been done in this case. I don't know if already the prosecutor has said, as part of the obligation to not seek the death penalty, he's asked some questions or he's met with them, and I don't know that they would reveal that if he had. As far as the judge goes, if this were federal court, in federal court, judges have the ability to have somebody stipulate to a factual basis and refuse to take the plea and say, I want to know this, I want to know that, I want you to answer my questions about the factual basis for the plea. We're not in federal courts, so that doesn't have much import here, but it is something where I understand from the family's standpoint why they want more information. I mean, I don't quite understand the way that this is being kind of, the public is getting the information, because clearly if the prosecutor was going to do this, and obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but the families are split in terms of whether or not they buy into this bargain, but this is actually, I think, a win for the prosecution in terms of getting a plea, not having to go through trial, not having to go through the circus, and ultimately, I think the same for the victims. But at the same time, the prosecutor, I would have hoped, would have gotten the information and shared it privately with the families to give them some degree of, the word that always gets used is closure.
Exactly, that was the right word. That was the word even I was trying to explain. For the families to heal and get closure. For them to get closure, they need the truth. When you have the truth in front of you, then at least you can make a decision, have an opinion, decide what further step to take. But when there is so much lies, distraction, confusion, everything's on gag order, then obviously everything's going to be a circus. So I don't understand where these parents are coming from. Whether they are for the DP or against the DP, they're entitled to fair justice. They're entitled to understanding what exactly happened to their children, why they are without their child right now. What was the motive? Who was the target? Was this pre-planned? Did it just suddenly happen? Even the public should be entitled to know. The community, the university, students. I don't understand. In other words, President Donald J. Trump is saying, or his input, I don't think has much to say. Like the excellent lawyer has explained, if it was a federal trial, the judge could ask more questions and expect more explanations from Koberger. But this is not a federal trial. Sad. But Hitler should at least give the family the closures. They have the right, they have the entitlement to find out what happened to their loved ones. After all, it's their children, in my opinion.
What would you still like to know? I know you wanted other things to be in the plea deal.
Our main argument wasn't ever for there not to be a plea deal. It really came down more to, let's get a full confession. I also think that the full admission would have been helpful, not only for our healing, because I think for me specifically, and I wish I wasn't this way, I need that full picture, right? I still just feel like I don't even understand what the hell happened, right? Like none of it makes sense to me. And I can look at these facts, but as far as putting something together in my head that makes sense, it's really difficult for me to do with a lack of.
Did you ever get a chance to tell the prosecution that you wanted a full confession, and did they ever respond?
So as soon as we got the email on Sunday, I was kind of trying to do everything that I could. We didn't even know if the deal had been sent to the defense. But immediately I said, has this been sent to the defense? And can we include concessions for the victim's family in the form of XYZ? And at first it wasn't just the confession. It was also, kind of like, can we make him not be able to make money off of this? Can we make him not be able to talk to members of the media? I understand that there's First Amendment rights there and stuff, but in the moment, you're not necessarily thinking super clearly. You're just trying to say, well, give me something here.
I think on the outside, everyone has wanted to know what the motive is. Have you been able to get any information? Is there anything you know that we don't know?
I don't know a why. I think that even if he was hooked up to a lie detector and given truth serum, his, why would be that he was just desperately trying to feel anything at all because he's a psychopath and he doesn't feel human emotions the way we do. I don't think it's a reason that would make sense to any of us because we aren't that. I think that reasoning would only make sense to that type of, human being or whatever you want to call him.
Would you want him Kohberger to speak at some point? I mean, you were saying how for you want to know everything. Would you want him to do some kind of interview where he tells all?
I hope that after sentencing, no one ever says his name again. Because I think that an individual like he is, any attention is positive. He views it positively. It doesn't matter if someone's talking poorly or talking positively about him, because attention is what is craved and it feeds into his ego. So for me, I think the best way to, kill an ego is to stop feeding it.
What about the sentencing? I know you're getting ready for it. Where are you at in that process?
My speech isn't about the process, the court, the lawyers, the judge. It's not even really about Haley or Maddie because Haley and Maddie know. They've been with me every single step of the way, and I refuse to get up there and further re-victimize myself over and over and over for a defendant who does not give a damn. No amount of tears, no amount of, tear jerkers, hearts, nothing is ever going to make him feel anything at best. And at worst, he enjoys it. And I'm just not gonna do it.
I understand what Elvira is saying. She has every right to be upset and frustrated and hurt and heartbroken. That's her sister. But yet again, nobody knows what's in Kohberger's thoughts. Even a psychiatrist or therapist wouldn't know what's in his thoughts, honestly. We can just evaluate, do mental health evaluation, and just follow his progress or his development in his mental health. But if he has antisocial personality disorder, it depends. Antisocial personality disorder has 5 different departments. Is he suffering with other mental health illnesses? Possibly. Comorbidity. We wouldn't know. It's only the mental health team, his lawyer, his family, that would know. And that's if he decides to even share the truth. People with antisocial personality disorder can be very manipulative, very calculated, narcissistic, personality disorders. A lot of that traits are found with antisocial personality disorder. But the question is Koberger a psychopath? I'm fed up of people calling him a psychopath when nobody has ever seen his physical health record or his mental health record. We are not his doctors or psychiatrists, so we wouldn't know it. We wouldn't be privileged to know it. And I think they'll be taking more neurologist tests of him, which is understandable because ASD has to do with the brain. Autism spectrum disorder has to do with the brain, and then he suffers of snow vision. That's another nerve eye situation, vision problem. And then he suffers of OCD, another mental health illness. So he is going through something, but we would never know. And if it's antisocial personality disorder, that could explain a bit why he doesn't have any reaction. But maybe he doesn't show remorse because maybe he didn't do it. That's a possibility too. We don't know exactly what's going on. What do y'all think, guys? Is Kober going to change his mind tomorrow? I doubt. Honestly, I doubt he changed his mind. He's in for the plea deal. Ann Taylor wanted the DP always out of the table. She got it. Question is, did he unalive Kaylee, Maddie, Zana, and Ethan? May they rest in peace. May the correct justice be served. Have a lovely day, guys.